And welcome to another edition of Unity in the Community. I'm Ernie Floyd. The Unity in the Community show embraces the city versus diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyle. And this particular edition of Unity in the Community is just exactly what it means, unity, because of the fact that our guest is someone I haven't seen in a long time. This is the first time we had a chance to have this conversation. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, how Worcester was back then, where Worcester is today, and where it's going in the future, as it applies to him, and as it applies to Unity Radio, as it applies to everybody. Joining me now is Kermit Sharpe. Kermit Sharpe, welcome to Unity in the Community. Where have you been?
Ernie, I've been almost everywhere. How are you doing? I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. You look great, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I might want to take my glasses off. The light's a little bright in here. Yeah. Bright lights anymore.
I hear you. I can still remember the first day I met you, and when you was up at the College of Holy Cross. You used to come to the games, and and was at the game, we'd be in the layup line, and he used to run to the front of the bleachers. And then I used to always try to get my attention, and I used to see you in the stands right there, and he was always right there, front and present all the time at the basketball games. And of course, our relationship traveled into the city of Worcester, and I got a chance to meet your mom and your whole family and all that sort of stuff. That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, Ernie. I was in high school then. I remember Holy Cross because Holy Cross was always the place that city kids looked at, an unattainable place. And then as I got older and became more of a
He was going to the games. And what piqued your interest at the games as well? Besides the fact that it didn't seem, we seemed as though we were up there, huh? Up on the mountain.
It was a thing. I remember being in high school and receiving a letter with a questionnaire. Remember back then when you used to get questionnaires in high school when you were a player, and receiving a questionnaire from Holy Cross. And I thought that was the biggest thing ever, to have the Holy Cross basketball staff be interested in me. You know what I mean? So then it was, I'm going to go to the Holy Cross basketball camp and get to play there in front of all of those coaches and players. So it was a thing.
Isn't it interesting with the fact that the school's interested in you, and we'll say Holy Cross in this particular instance, and you get the letter, and you go up there and you attend the games, and then you have the chance to go to a camp. And what a way to introduce yourself, to expose yourself actually in your talent in front of the coaches. And it's an excellent package deal, if you will, because of the fact that you didn't have to travel far. You lived in a neighborhood, and you had the chance, the best of both worlds. One, go to the games, watch the style, see how they played, and then maybe emulate that over the summertime when you got there. And if there was some interest, if you was interested in going to college at Holy Cross, if not, at least you got a chance to play. And that's what you was really interested in at that time.
At my time, remember, to get out of Worcester was a big thing. You know, I went to the Holy Cross basketball camp with really not a lot of people knowing who I was. Not a lot of people even having respect for Worcester players. And there were some players here, but we had no real exposure. We didn't even have exposure into Boston. I think myself, and again, I played in high school with Dwayne McClain. There was Larry Hampton here. Some of the players that were here were good players for here, but we really weren't that good for the rest of the region. We needed to get out of Worcester to have a steady diet of competition. And I think that my particular generation, that 5-10 year span that we had, opened Worcester up, because I was one of the first, myself and Larry Hampton. Dwayne came after us, but myself and Larry Hampton, we were the first ones to ever get experience in Boston. with some people that you knew from Boston. We were the first players to ever be brought out of Worcester to mingle and mesh with Boston players and go places. You know, I had Leo Papale, Al Brodsky. You know, we had those people that kind of exposed us and told us, hey, you guys can play. Come and play with us guys in Boston, you know? So that was the open. And that started from Holy Cross with Eddie Thurman, you know, and you were out of Boston. So we knew players. You knew us. So that was different.
It's funny you should mention Eddie Thurman, because Eddie Thurman was out of Lynn, and then he ended up going to Wake Forest and eventually transferred to Holy Cross.
That's right.
You brought up Leo Papale. You brought up Al Brodsky, to call him Bean in Boston. They just honored Bean recently. And I could recall being back in Roxbury prior to coming to Holy Cross. Those gentlemen used to just come by, pick you up, and Bean in particular, throw you in this car with a whole bunch of other players and travel around and just enter into tournaments. It was like way over my head, right?
Yep.
Way over my head, just entering into tournaments. But the fact that they felt as though that I was worthy, they felt as though I was of value, made it so that I wanted to play and I wanted to be up to the level of those other players. Like, I still talk to Terry today, and Terry is very good friends with Michael Bivens, and we talk all the time. And to this day, he was just texting me during the New York and the San Antonio tournament, and we're talking about strategy and players, and I'm complaining about San Antonio, because how can this coach back in the day, you know, the 7-footers, you know, were rare. Okay. And you've had the 7-footer back in the day was Cambridge Latin, had Pat Ewing, as you know, and he played up here at the Hart Center for the States and stuff like that. How can you lose with a 7-footer? But the game has changed so much.
The game is so different. It's so different. It's almost the game has almost foregone positions. There's really no such thing as positions anymore. When I came up, you were a point guard, you were a shooting guard, you were a forward, you were a center. Now there's things like point centers. Like for me, I don't completely understand it. I think it's a shortcut, but that's me showing my age. But I remember the first time when my mother took me to Roxbury and dropped me off and watched all of the players that Al had put together get into this big black Cadillac that looked like the Herman Munster mobile.
I was going to say that, but it was a hearse, basically.
It really was.
It was.
But you know what? All of those players had a camaraderie with each other that I don't think a lot of the players today have. We knew each other.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? We actually knew each other. We traveled with each other. We ate with each other. We stayed with each other.
And most of those guys lived in the neighborhood too.
That's right.
As well. So it made a big difference. And it seemed as though they didn't went around and they picked the best of the best, whatever at the time. There was no such thing as AAU at the time too.
No, that's exactly right.
There was no AAU. So.
I remember starting in high school and not knowing what AAU was. And Leo Papale was the first person that introduced me to AAU. And we went to Jacksonville, Florida. And I remember all of the guys. I played with Bubba Raymond. I played with Pat Ewing. I played with John Miller, who went to Assumption. I mean, we played against Craig Dreiling, you know, from Wichita, Kansas, down in Florida. And I was on that AAU team. John Seeley was on that team. Yeah. So a lot of those guys I remember, you know, and that was my first experience with AAU, had it as it was developing. It's not what it's nothing like it is now.
Right.
It's a money-making adventure now, but Leo, you know, Leo.
Yeah. It was interesting because of how they gathered the players and they knew how to mix match the players. And basically, it was just like this incredible all-star team. You would take the best of the best out of Roxbury, Worcester. In some instances, that's why they came up here. They said, okay, what can we do to strengthen what we have in Roxbury? And let's go to Worcester and see what's happening up there. And how they knew that, in some instances, people in Worcester knew the people in Boston. Boston knew people in Worcester, meaning the guys had camaraderie. They had a cousin, they had a brother, they had a sister. They knew somebody or something.
I'll tell you how myself and Larry Hampton specifically, got exposed to it. We used to play at the Marlboro Boys Club, and we played for this guy named Duca. I can't remember his first name, but he used to come out and get us. And we beat the Roxbury team that Bean had in the Marlboro Boys Club tournament.
Yeah.
And that night, Bean asked us to play with him. But had that never happened, had we never played for Duca out in Marlboro at the Marlboro Boys Club, no one would have never knew who we were. So that's how things kind of snowballed for us.
Right. And I can recall playing the Marlboro Boys and Girls Club too, because Pat Ewing, those guys had a team in there as well. And it was just incredible how basketball was back then. And this was Unity in the community. I'm Ernie Floyd, and joining me is Kermit Sharpe. Kermit Sharpe is a Worcester native, and I am obviously a Roxbury native, Boston native. And I haven't had the chance to talk to you in a long time. And the purpose of this conversation too is not only just to get acquainted with you, but also talk about sports and basketball and pay homage to a lot of those guys that we played against and played for, like the Pat Ewings back in the day and the John Sealeys and stuff like that, and a number of other players that I played against and played with. And it's kind of weaning off right now. Some of them are in the NBA, but a lot of them are gone now.
Yep.
Like that. And so, but coming back to Worcester, I know between Holy Cross was a powerhouse back then, and as far as the men's team. But now it's the women's team, by the way. And who would ever would have thought that the women's team, no disrespect for the women's team, okay, that would be a powerhouse more so than the men's team, in a sense of now.
It's probably a natural progression that women would progress to where they are now. With all of the rule changes, the Prop 48 and all of that stuff that happened with women and the having equal, monies being distributed through college. It's still not on the same level,
right,
but it still has progressed. I mean, 20 years now, WNBA women are getting $1 million contracts now. I don't think the women in my time would have ever thought they could make $1 million playing basketball. I don't ever think they thought that. So it's progressed. Let me, before we start, I can't talk about being a Worcester kid without talking about the people that helped me.
So what we're going to do is you're going to hold that thought. We're going to come right back and have
Sure.
that discussion, because I want to talk about Bo Hampton. I want to talk about Larry Hampton.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you and every. This is not naming some Al McLean,
Chavis,
Alfonso
Chavis,
all those guys.
Yeah.
They all want to play homage to those guys. Well, once again, this is Unity in the Community. I'm Ernie Floyd. Joining me is Kermit Sharpe. He's a youth advocate and also an athletic advisor. He's traveling the world. He's international. We're going to get there now. We're going to start here in Worcester. We're going to work our way around the country and then around the world, because that's where you've been. And I'm welcoming him back here on Unity in the Community. So stay with us right here on Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Unity Radio. Worcester, we got you.
Unity Radio is streaming at WTY979fm.org. We'd like to thank our listeners and supporters.
TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. TDBank.com. Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare of Worcester. HarvardPilgrim.org. And Wings Over Worcester. WingsOverWorcester.com.
Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
Boston and Worcester, get ready for one of the biggest Ghana U.S. business and cultural experiences during the FIFA World Cup season. Join us for the Ghana Worcester Boston Trade and Investment Exchange 2026, happening June 24th and 25th, bringing together government officials, investors, businesses, entrepreneurs, diaspora organizations, and community leaders from Ghana and the United States. Day 1, June 24th at Hyatt Regency Boston. The Ghana Boston Trade and Investment Summit will feature powerful B2B and B2G networking sessions. Special guests include Ghana's ambassador to the United States. Day 2, June 25th, Worcester Common. The energy moves to Worcester for the Ghana Worcester Trade Fair, a free public event filled with food vendors, products, shopping, culture, entertainment, networking, and community engagement. This is where business, culture, diaspora, and opportunity come together. Learn more at heritagetriage.com/events.
Hi, I'm Ernie Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show on Unity Radio 97.9. Join me and my guest as we discuss topics on embracing our diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. I'm Ernie Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
You're listening to Unity 97.9 FM, WUTY, Worcester.
And once again, this is Unity in the Community. Unity in the Community Show embraces the city versus diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. And I'm Ernie Floyd, right here in Unity 979. And joining me now on Unity in the Community is Kermit Sharpe. Kermit Sharpe is a Worcester native, and we go way back when I was attending the College of Holy Cross, and when he's just like a little peewee in the stands, and he's now grown up. And we're talking about our experience that we were, how we first met, and at the same time, after Holy Cross, when I got involved here in the city of Worcester. And that's why we call the show Unity in the Community, because one, it's kind of like two double meaning here, because one, we're uniting again for the first time. When's the last time we've seen each other? It's been a while.
The last time I was in the United States was 2002. I don't know if we spoke then. It had to have been before COVID then.
But definitely.
Because I came, right? That's when I was working in Canada. I was working with the Federation in Canada. So it had to be before 2018. I think that was the last time.
So let's go before that then. I met you at the College of Holy Cross, and you were in the stands. You would come and meet me and greet me when I was warming up at the ball games. And then eventually I became ingrained in the city of Worcester. But then what was happening with you overall? I knew your mom, I knew your family, that sense. And tell us about what high school did you go to? When we're talking about basketball, we're talking about people and
at
the community
that time. At that time, well, okay, so I'm a Worcester kid. I grew up here. I lived at 126 Belmont, 753-1744. I still remember my phone number there. I was one of the first, we were one of the first classes to go from the old Belmont Street to the new Belmont Community School. That's how old I am. Lincoln Square Boys Club, Worcester East Middle, Holy Name. I went to Holy Name High School, Holy Name Central Catholic High School. And that's where I started getting real notoriety. But I believe me as a basketball player started at the Lincoln Square Boys Club, because I had some people there that looked out for me, you know, and not only me, but our little group. All of us that prospered into being high school all-stars here in Worcester, we all started at the Lincoln Square Boys Club.
Yeah.
You know, so we had Dick Daly, Dick Dean, Paul Mina, Alfonso Chavis, Brian Prince, Sonny Berry. Those Bobby Vartanian lived across the street from Belmont Community School when he was still in college. We were still little kids. So I had some people in my life early that were really integral to what happened to me later on in my life. And those are people that are reference points that I use often.
Yeah, and speaking of the Lincoln Square Boys and Girls Club, you know that they're developing it right now as we speak, right?
You know, Ernie, as I come back through Worcester,
yeah.
I think to myself, they've taken away my childhood. You know what I mean? They've taken it away because there's nothing almost the same. You know, as I was coming here, the Worcester Galleria is gone. You know, the Union Station was just an old dilapidated building. But now it's, you know, the circle on Belmont Street that connected everything is gone, you know.
Right. And you see the Memorial Auditorium, which is still standing. They are renovating it, believe it or not, but it doesn't have the activity as it was back then. This is way before the thought of the Centrum, or what they call it today, the DCU Center.
Yeah. Well,
Way
the
before.
Centrum didn't exist. I was there at the construction of the Centrum because I'm a Worcester kid. So I remember all of that. My forte into the Centrum was when they had the Worcester Bombardiers. Remember when they had Norm Van Leer that came and coached there, and they wanted me to try out, but they didn't want to give me the money that they were giving to the other players that they had shipped in.
Norm Van Leer, formerly of the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
And we thought he was the greatest thing since, we'll say a name, Michael Jordan or something like that. But he's coming to Worcester.
Yep.
He was a great guy, though.
Yep.
But they put him up on such a high pedestal when he arrived here at that time during those days, And I played for the Bombardiers briefly when Dave Collins was the coach, by the way.
Oh, really?
When we moved into the auditorium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I remember when Norm Van Leer came and I was playing. I had played. This is when I'm trying to remember if it was before or after I had come back for playing for the Albany Patroons with George Carl.
Yeah.
And he invited me to come. No, it had to have been the same time because I had a blue Jeep. I remember. And Norm Van Leer was playing in the league out in Oxford. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. It's out there by Route 20.
Yeah. And he asked me.
It was an outdoor court. And it was a restaurant. I rode by there recently.
You had to walk through the bar, to get to the back of the court. We were playing there, and he said, "Who are you?" I told him who I was and where I was coming from, and he said, "Hey, I'm Norm Van Leer, blah blah blah. Come and try out." And I said, "Well, are you going to pay me the same much as you pay the other ones that come and try out?"
Right.
That was when they had the guy that played with Len Bias, Keith Gatlin. Remember
Yeah, really
him?
going back. Yeah, from Maryland.
Yeah,
You're
they
really
played
going
with Len
back.
Bias, Keith Gatlin.
I want to go back to the Albany Patroons, okay? When I was playing,
you would want to go there.
yeah, because the fact that we played, it was like an old armory,
Mhm.
similar to the armory that's across the street from the old Lincoln Boys Club, which is the new development that's taking place right now. And at that time, who's the coach for the Chicago
George
Bulls?
Carl. Oh, for the Bombardiers?
No, for the Chicago Bulls. Former coach, he coached the Chicago Bulls, and he coached the LA Lakers.
Who was the coach for the Chicago Bulls then?
Who coached the LA Lakers with Shaq and the rest of those guys?
Coached LA.
The well-known coach who coached Michael Jordan, won the 6 championships.
Phil Jackson?
Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson was the coach of the Albany Patroons at the time when I played for the Bombardiers.
Okay.
At the time, I remember that too. The way he walked up and down the sideline.
That was before he had gotten a job in the NBA.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how far I'm going back. And we played this old armory in Albany, like that. And then the travel and these buses that we had, these vans or something.
You played
like
at the Worcester Armory?
We played at the Worcester Armory. No, we played at the Worcester Auditorium.
The auditorium.
And then Dave
with
Collins
that terrible
came in.
floor.
Yeah, and Dave Collins came in as the coach, and of course the corners, because you couldn't shoot in the corners because of the overhang like that too. So, but I want to talk about the fact that you went to Holy Name. You came up in the ranks of the school, and as you moved on professionally, you came back somehow, some way. You got involved with youth, and because I was speaking with somebody recently, and they talked about how much of an impact you played in their life. And when did all of a sudden you started giving back and started getting involved with youth?
I remember out of college, I was at Clark. I didn't have an agent. And nobody kind of schooled me on how important that was to have an agent.
You need representation and someone who knows how to go out and
well at that
rep you.
time, Ernie.
Right.
Let me tell you why that was important. At the time, I was a 2-time All-American at Clark. I led the nation in scoring, and that's 1, 2, and 3. So when I had graduated, people kind of knew who I was. Professional teams knew who I was. We had gone to the final. We played for the final. We played for the national championship my junior year.
Of course.
My second year, we went to the final 8. And I remember I was sick and I didn't play that much. But anyway, I was an All-American. I was the 57th player drafted in the USBL. So remember what that meant. that was my last year of school, was the time that they had cut down the draft to only two rounds.
Mhm.
So you think about it, I was the 57th player drafted, and USBL still drafted players that were getting really drafted in the NBA, because if they got cut, those teams wanted the rights to those players. So I was the 57th player drafted in the nation of the classes that were coming out by the Wichita Shockers, Wichita
Shockers,
whatever they were.
Yeah, they were Shockers.
The CBA team.
Yeah, because I played against Antoine Carr. He went to Wichita State.
That's right. He played at Wichita University. I'm talking the professional team.
Right.
I went out to my tryout in Wichita.
Did you ever make it to 5-star basketball camp, which was prominent at that time?
No,
In order to get
I
your name
never
out
got
there,
invited there.
because
I never got
Garfinkel had to
invited.
invite you. If you went to basketball camp, hit 5-star.
Because you had to be invited.
You had to be
Remember
invited.
that? You
Oh,
had
of
to be
course.
invited. I never got an invitation to that.
Mm.
Which kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, but then I got to play against all the ones that had gotten invited, and I thought, I didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know what I mean?
the couple of times I went, Champ Godbolt was out of Springfield. He
Yep,
played at
Champ
Cross.
was a very good friend of mine,
Right.
when
And
he
then
transferred.
Rocket Rod Foster was my roommate before he went to UCLA.
Yep.
As well. And so a lot of these different players that we had a chance to meet, and also they move further up in the ranks, and a number of them are giving back to the community, working with young people as well. And that's why I find intriguing with you is the fact that I knew you when, of course, coming up and observing us, the bigger guys, and then you went off and did your thing, and now you're back. And I just curious on how you're able to give back and work with the young people here
Well,
in
what
City Worcester,
happened
or
was-
before you left,
What happened was, when it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, I didn't have an agent. I didn't get invited to certain camps. You had to work. My mother, my mother.
Yeah, I do.
You had to
Yeah,
work
right.
in my
Mhm.
house.
Now, where was, not to interrupt, but where was Kevin Sherry at the time? I know
Kevin Cherry was at Clark.
right? He was
Kevin Cherry, Danny
Danny
Trant, Kevin Clark,
Clark.
Bruce Bolster. Clark had a great team. They had
Right.
gone to the finals. They had gone to the finals too.
right.
They had
You
played for the
cannot
national
mention
championship.
Clark without mentioning those guys. And rest in
Yeah.
peace, Danny Trent. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was in the tower.
So
by
I
the way.
started working.
Right.
I worked my first job that I had out of college. I worked at U Inc.
Yeah.
I worked at U Inc. And I worked in a program where we were putting kids back into school who had dropped out.
Were you on Plantation Street?
Excuse me?
Were you on Plantation Street?
Yeah,
off
on
of-
Plantation Street.
Yep.
I worked in two separate programs. A program that was for teen parents and
Yes.
kids that had dropped
Oh, the
out.
teens? Okay, yeah. The teen program right there. Well, joining me is Kermit Sharpe. We're talking about way back in the day, actually, as you can tell. And actually, there was a life here in Worcester where a lot of people have experienced it, and some, because Worcester has diverse and has changed, and some are gone and some are coming in, and they don't know their history, and it's a real rich history. And maybe one day we can sit down and maybe carve out a museum or something like that, and really pay homage to the people that played a role in the city of Worcester back then, which plays a role in where city of Worcester is right now. So when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion with Kermit Sharpe. He's a youth advocate, and also he's a sports advisor too as well. He's traveled the world internationally. He's back here in Worcester, and he's right here on Unity in the Community with me, Ernie Floyd. So we're going to come right back here on Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Unity Radio. Worcester, we've got you.
Boston and Worcester, get ready for one of the biggest Ghana U.S. business and cultural experiences during the FIFA World Cup season. Join us for the Ghana Worcester Boston Trade and Investment Exchange 2026, happening June 24th and 25th, bringing together government officials, investors, businesses, entrepreneurs, diaspora organizations, and community leaders from Ghana and the United States. Day 1, June 24th at Hyatt Regency Boston. The Ghana Boston Trade and Investment Summit will feature powerful B2B and B2G networking sessions. Special guests include Ghana's ambassador to the United States. Day 2, June 25th, Worcester Common. The energy moves to Worcester for the Ghana Worcester Trade Fair, a free public event filled with food vendors, products, shopping, culture, entertainment, networking, and community engagement. This is where business, culture, diaspora, and opportunity come together. Learn more at heritagetriage.com/events.
Everybody's riding. What's up, it's Summer Walker, and this is Chris Warner. My name's still Chief with 2 eyes. Yo, what's poppin'? It's Kendrick Lamar, letting y'all know.
What's good? It's Metro Boomin.
What's up, it's Summer Walker.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Leon Thomas.
Log into Club Unity every Friday and Saturday, 10 to 1 on Unity Radio, 97.9 FM. Let's go.
We got this summertime feel.
Tune into the Sustainable Life with Susan T. Ulett, and together we will find our way to a healthier, healing lifestyle by listening to empowering stories of overcoming our struggles. Join me, Susan T. Ulett, on the Sustainable Life every Wednesday from 5 to 6 on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. See you soon.
You're listening to Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
And welcome back to Unity, the Community. I'm Ernie Floyd. The Unity and the Community Show embraces the city versus diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. A good friend of mine, Kermit Sharpe, is joining us here. He is known as a strong Worcesterite, and he's come back and he's traveled the world. And we're just talking about way back in the day when I first met him and where I was back then. And we're moving our way up to where Worcester is now, and then what you believe Worcester is going to be in the future. Especially we talked about basketball because that was our commonality at the time. We were dropping a lot of names where basketball was then. Obviously, basketball has changed, and you can tell it's changed because I was very fierce about, wasn't really happy about how they operated the 7-footer on San Antonio. We were talking about that. And back then, if you saw a 7-footer shooting out what they call now the 3-point area, I think the next whistle, he'd been sitting down pretty fast.
Yeah.
You know, and
Imagine that. Imagine you took a, you know, an 18-footer with Coach Blaney.
We'll say Pat Ewing back then. You never saw Pat Ewing take a 3-pointer back then. No. And like you said, positionary players. When you had a guard, you were that guard. If you were forward, you did the forward. If you were center, you were a center. So they had, you're right, those strong positionary positions.
Yeah.
But right now, basketball has changed so much. They don't say guard, center, forward anymore. They have some other names.
They have all of these hybrid names for positions. And if you really stop to think about it, it's actually diluted the way that the game's played. And I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy right now, but
I'm with you.
But I think it's, and I'm going to tell you something. I think I can put my finger on when it started to change. And I believe that it was the first time that Rick Pitino got to Florida. Because remember, he was the first real coach ever to utilize the 3-point shot. If you remember, he was the one that said, if I can make a certain percentage of 3-pointers as opposed to other teams playing the 2-point game, I'll win. I believe he was the person that actually changed and shaped what we see now. Also, my first year in college was the first year of the 3-point shot. So think about that, because that was not in college. These kids today, they have no idea.
Right. And 3-pointer has moved several times off the top.
They moved it in.
They moved it in and moved it out. And Rick Pitino, I can recall, he recruited me too as well. That's when he was at BU, Boston University, at one time. And we knew all those guys. There's all the names that you hear of today, like the Rick Pittinos of the world. They all kind of reinvented themselves almost in a sense. You know, all those top coaches that were back then, you know, and going back to what you said earlier, when the Big East first started, when Dave Gavitt has Celtic connection, and Dave Gavitt also started the Big East, and Holy Cross got invited. I was attending the College of Holy Cross. I was on the team at the time, and it was told or mentioned the fact that Holy Cross was not in a position to compete on that level, and at the same time, they didn't want to dilute, as you would say, their academics compared to the other different teams.
Yep.
But I found it interesting at that time, as I can reflect back now, is the fact we played maybe half our schedule is probably half those teams anyway, and it's kind of like, what was the difference?
If you remember,
we played at Georgetown.
Yep. If you remember, one of the big controversies about that with Pat Ewing going to Georgetown was the fact, could he academically get in and maintain it? That was the big thing about him, because remember when Pat came, for lack of a better way to express this, people questioned his aptitude, because remember, Pat didn't speak much. I knew he could speak. He was just Jamaican. He spoke in patois, but I knew he could speak because we had played together on an AAU team. He didn't talk a lot for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, of course.
But that was the question. Even I remember after I graduated high school, Holy Name played them
at the Hart Center.
Yeah.
Huge attendance.
It was a big thing. But I remember specifically, it was about, I was in prep school. I'd gone to St. Thomas More, but I remember that was specifically one of the things that a lot of people, derogatory ways that they tried to demean a young Patrick Ewing that way.
And they made fun of him in the very beginning too,
Absolutely.
as well, right? Because he came in, he was awkward.
Absolutely.
Didn't have any confidence. In Boston, Roxbury in particular, put a lot of pressure on him just from his height alone. And he had this huge expectancy to be something to match that height, and he wasn't there yet.
Funny story.
But thanks to Mike Jarvis, though.
Mike Jarvis, funny story, because he left.
Yeah.
Mike Jarvis became the coach at George Washington. He offered me a scholarship out of prep school. But, at that time, I was going in a different direction, and I kind of knew who I was and where I should be. And I ended up going and playing for Kevin Mackey, which that's a whole nother different
Cleveland
story.
State, I remember that.
That's a whole nother different
and
story.
Plus, he moved on to the Detroit Pistons. So you see him in a lot of different videos.
That's Kevin Mackey.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell you stories for days about.
I know you talk. Yeah.
About how
he was formerly at BC too.
The shady things.
Yeah.
That happened when I was at Cleveland State. Well,
right.
remember he was at BC with Tom Davis and McMahon. Remember McMahon who brought
he was recruiting me
Martin
at
Clark
BC
over
too
from England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that running joke you and I used to say all the time with Mackey. Hey Ernie, come over here. Come on, join us.
Yeah. I mean, so I knew all those guys from being in Boston.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So and playing at different all-star games that I had gotten invited to.
And we can't forget John Calhoun too.
Yeah,
Calhoun's at Northeastern.
Remember, John Calhoun was at Northeastern
before he came to Connecticut.
That's right.
Name of Connecticut, right?
That's right.
And he recruited me too as well. I had a chance to go there.
He had Reggie Miller, Reggie Lewis, who became a very good friend of mine, playing through remember we used to play in the Pan Am games.
Yep.
Here.
And then
but if you asked me a
Reggie
question,
Lewis
Ernie,
onto the Boston Celtics and the rest of the system.
Yeah. I look around and I know a little bit, like a player that I coached at Quincy is now, I think he's in Worcester government, Louis Ojeda, who played for me at Quincy.
He's a city
but
councilor.
I don't know. He talks about a lot of things that happen in Worcester. Who are the leaders here now? Because when I came out, there was Betty Price. There was Ron Scott.
You're going somewhere.
There was Liz Salmon.
Yeah.
There were Carlton Watson.
Yeah.
There were people.
Ron Scott.
Ronnie Scott that it was at OFC, AFC that used to get summer jobs for lots of us young kids. Who does that now? Who are those people?
I think they're here, and I think a number of them would stand up right now if they heard this conversation and say that I'm doing it or we're doing it per se. But I'm not in that circle per se. But at that time, those individuals that we're mentioning lived in the neighborhood. Those individuals, it was a cluster because they were huge families.
Yeah.
When you mention different families of the Johnsons, huge family.
Yeah.
Troy Johnson and the rest of his family.
Yeah.
When you mention Liz Salmon and the Prices, huge family.
Yep.
not only just a family as far as part of the culture, but also they were in the religious sector too as well.
Right.
Yeah, Robert Anderson and his family, huge family, lots of families that were here.
Well,
I'm not sure whether I'm not sure where it started to dilute.
Well, I can tell you. I can tell you. I can tell you.
All right.
I lived on Belmont Street.
Yeah.
The Prospect House used to be on Laurel Street.
Yes.
The Prospect House was on the same street just below where Plumley Village came out of the dirt. So Betty Price had her hand in that. You know, Ron Scott lived on Elizabeth Street in that area off of Belmont Street. You know, so everybody at that particular time knew everybody.
Yes.
It was you know a mile radius of everybody knowing each other.
Right.
You know, they went to AME Zion Church. You know, they went to Second Baptist Church. You know, Mr. Hargrove's church, Reverend Hargrove's church.
Yeah.
So
Emmanuel Baptist Church.
yeah, I mean, everybody knew everybody. So
it was made up of maybe what 5 or 6, 7, 10 families.
Yeah, you know, the Prices were the largest family. The Prices, the Jenkins, the Johnsons. You know what I mean? Everybody knew who they were, and one way or another, you were intermingled. And then you have to realize on the west side there was the Elks.
Yes.
So all of those older Black people matriculated at the Elks. You know, so we all knew each other, or Beaver Brook.
Yeah. And then at the same time, when you had that crowd, it's still to this day, they are recognizing the Laurel Clayton area because that's where that whole neighborhood got disrupted.
See,
because
it's funny because you call it the Laurel Clayton. You call it the streets. We called it just Plumley. You either lived in Hooper Street, Belmont Street, or you lived in Plumley. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Hooper Street is now UMass Memorial Hospital.
Yeah.
Right there on Belmont Street.
That was, I mean, Dwayne grew up on Hooper Street.
Right.
Dwayne's older sister, Wanda, they call her Frances, was in my 6th grade class at Belmont Street Community School.
And speaking of large families, come on, the McLeans.
Well, you have to
how
remember.
Many were there? There was a lot of McLeans.
There was, the McLean family was more than just McLeans. The McLean family were the Saffords, the Tonys, and the McLeans. So they were all kind of springing out of one family. Right. You know, they were all cousins.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, and I went to school with the Saffords.
Right.
You know, because Craig and
Doug.
Ernie and rest
in peace, Doug Safford.
They went to Holy Name. Marvin, Dougie. They all went to. They were cousins of Dwayne. Dwayne's mother and their mother were sisters. So you know,
and I had to throw it out there too. Chuck Chillin, you know, a DJ here. Right?
That's right. Well, Chuck is Chucky Safford. He's related to them. Yep, he's part of their family.
As well.
So you know, and then if you really want to get into it,
sure,
the Andersons, Gail, Lump, Robert Anderson, they're related to the Jenkins. So you know, it was the 5 families, like the mafia, you know what I mean? And everybody was related with each other.
I think we're talking about something that has been talked about in a long time, and I'm glad that we are. I'm glad that I'm talking it with you because I haven't seen you in a while. But once again, if you're wondering what we're talking about and you're saying, well, this is some interesting things, and I remember those families, I remember those names. Once again, Kermit Sharpe is joining me right here at Unity in the Community. I'm Ernie Floyd, and we're reminiscing back in the day, and we're talking about the communities where they were back then. And as we move our way to where they are today, and maybe we'll start talking about where we expect the families and the culture to go in the future. Once again, this is Unity in the Community on Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hello, my name is Alvin Familia, president of the Manny 267 Foundation, and you are listening to Unity Radio, 97.9 FM, Worcester Community Connection.
Boston and Worcester, get ready for one of the biggest Ghana U.S. business and cultural experiences during the FIFA World Cup season. Join us for the Ghana Worcester Boston Trade and Investment Exchange 2026 happening June 24th and 25th. Bringing together government officials, investors, businesses, entrepreneurs, diaspora organizations, and community leaders from Ghana and the United States. Day 1, June 24th at Hyatt Regency Boston. The Ghana Boston Trade and Investment Summit will feature powerful B2B and B2G networking sessions. Special guests include Ghana's ambassador to the United States. Day 2, June 25th, Worcester Common. The energy moves to Worcester for the Ghana Worcester Trade Fair, a free public event filled with food vendors, products, shopping, culture, entertainment, networking, and community engagement. This is where business, culture, diaspora, and opportunity come together. Learn more at heritagetriage.com/events.
Activa la radio y Unity Radio 97.9 FM te invitan a escuchar el bloque latino todos los sábados de 7 de la mañana hasta la 1 de la tarde por los 97.9 FM en la ciudad de Worcester.
Hello, I'm Pastor Sharon Henderson of Covenant St. Andrew's United Methodist Church, 24 Hamilton Street, Worcester, Mass. We welcome you to worship with us every Sunday at 10 a.m. Let's worship together and love one another. I'm Sharon Henderson, pastor of Covenant St. Andrew's United Methodist Church, 24 Hamilton Street. We welcome you to worship with us at 10 a.m. every Sunday. Let's do it together and let's make Jesus.
Let's talk, Worcester. Unity 97.9.
And welcome back to Unity in the Community. The Unity in the Community show embraces the city, which is diverse cultural communities, music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. And Kermit Sharpe is joining us here on Unity in the Community. And Kermit, you are digging and pushing over a lot of dirt here when it comes to the history of basketball, of the community, when it comes to the culture. And you get a chance to travel internationally, of course. Yep. Congratulations and stuff. And you started out small. When we talk about basketball, you wasn't really playing basketball, and then it gravitated to it, and you obviously honed in on it. And one of the things we didn't talk about was Crumpton Park, okay, which was a battling ground, and we would have those teams. And even Doug Flutie from BC would bring his team up back then, and a number of teams would come, sometimes from New York. When Crumpton Park was like our Rutgers Park, almost like New York City, right? And Crumpton Park, and we played there, and the crowd used to pack there, and that was the spot. In reference to basketball, and a lot of people came from all around the region, even Boston and Pittsburgh, and just name it. Teams would just come there and converge there and bring their guys and compete.
My development as a basketball player was enhanced by Crumpton Park.
Yes.
I was just talking about this the other day with one of my ex-players that I'm still in touch with, Sammy Addo, and we talked about the influence of Crumpton Park. Now, remember, I lived off of Providence Street. So during the summer, we used to ride our bikes we would meet in Plumley Village. We'd ride our bikes all the way out to Kendrick Field near Norton's. I think that was Norton's. And this was before the highway. Mm-hmm. We would ride our bikes out there. We would play games there. We'd ride them all the way back to Crumpton Park to watch 3 games.
Kendrick Field is basically near West Boylston Street.
West Boylston Street, going towards Quincy.
The number of people that travel West Boylston Street, you go underneath the train tracks on that bridge.
That's right.
You see that basketball park on the left.
None of that highway was there then.
Right.
Then we'd ride our bikes back and make it to Crumpton Park and watch 3 games. Because remember, there used to be 3 games.
Right.
And we'd watch every single one of them because we were too young to be in the games.
And everybody used to push up to the front.
Everybody would push up to the front and watch. And then,
and especially the people up on the hill.
Remember, Crumpton Park wasn't, the court wasn't like it is now.
Oh, no.
It was a dump.
And it was a hill.
Was a dump. It was hilly. It was hilly. And we swore that one of the baskets was higher than the other.
It was.
We watched.
You had to be somebody, because if you was not, and they showed you up.
I remember the teams, Ernie.
Right.
Ronnie's.
Oh yeah.
Hammond Plastics.
Oh my goodness.
Campus Sports World with
There you go.
Zeke Picaro, because I ended up playing for him. He was
Yeah.
the first person to put me on a team. Zeke Picaro from Campus
What was
Sports
that team
World.
that came from Assumption? What was that group?
Excuse me?
What was the team that came from Assumption? It was made up of Assumption.
It was the bar. It was a bar on Park Avenue. It had Zelensky, Grokowski, all of those guys on it.
Yeah.
And then, Holy Cross had the Ronnies.
Yeah.
Holy Cross guys always play for Ronnies. And then there was Charlie's Army and Navy.
Charlie Surplus.
Charlie Surplus. I mean,
and you wouldn't dare go to another team.
oh no. That's who you played for. The first team that you got on, that's who you played for
stayed
until
with
you
us,
retired.
right.
We'd watch 3 games. It would be over by 10 o'clock. And then after us riding our bikes all the way from Crensick Field, playing a game, riding our bikes back. Some of us played in the youth games. We'd have practice at Worcester State. We would then play at Crumpton Park until the lights went out.
Yeah.
And then we
they
do
would
it
come on.
all again the next day.
That's all.
We do it all
back
again
then,
the
right,
next day. That's we didn't have cars.
No,
we didn't have
No.
cars. I didn't get my license until I was 22 years old.
Right.
So we didn't need them.
Right.
We didn't need
And
them.
whenever we needed something, and Charlie Surplus would come out and he would just provide sneakers and a shirt.
Absolutely.
And it was an interesting store if you went to Charlie Surplus store too as well. You go down, you open the door, and it was just stuff everywhere. It wasn't organized. Like, okay, sizes 8 is over here, 10's over there.
Mark Epstein.
Mark
that was the
Epstein,
son's name.
yeah.
Charlie Epstein was the
Epstein.
dad. Mark Epstein was the
And Mark
was
has
the
written
son.
a number of different books. And I spoke with him, and you would just walk in, and you would just see just piles of just athletic gear, shorts, shirts, shoes all over the place. You had to like try to. It was like mix and match. Try to put stuff. That's what the store was. I recall the story. Someone told me that someone came in and tried to straighten out the store, and I guess they did. And he came back in. He's like, and he just lost it. All right, and that's what the store was made up of. It just come in, and if you needed something, he just gave it to you.
It was right below my house. It was on Water Street.
Right.
I lived on Waverly
Right.
Street. It was right below my house. I'd go down. I'd step in to see Mr. Epstein.
Mhm.
He'd say, "What do you want, kid?
Yeah.
I like that curly hair you got." He'd always say that to me. They always treated me very nice. I never played for anybody, but until when Mr. Picaro passed away, there was no more Campus Sports World. We ended up playing for Frias Construction. I still have my Frias Construction jersey to this day. I still have it.
Frias, the Frias family, right there.
Louis, yep.
Louis
Louis,
Frias.
Ray, Julio.
Louis,
Ray, and
the three
Julio.
brothers,
Yep.
right? And there was
Louis-
another one. I think there was a fourth one too.
He didn't play basketball.
He didn't play though, right?
Yeah,
right,
I can't remember his name
But
right
Louis
now.
and Ray, Louis, rest in peace too as well. No, Ray.
Louis, Ray, Julio,
Oh.
and Ray. To show you how long I've been in Worcester and how I know where the bodies are buried. Ray was married to Sheila Harrity, who I grew up with.
Yes.
Yeah. Ray was married to Sheila Harrity,
Right.
who I grew up with. I've known Sheila probably since I was 13 years old,
Right.
who ended up being the principal of my cousin's school at Vogue.
You're right. She was a principal at Volk, and then she worked prior to that. Well, that's still under Worcester Public Schools. She was Worcester Public Schools. I worked with her there. I had a position with Worcester Public Schools at the time there, different position than I have now. And then she moved from Worcester to Volk, and she went out to Wachusett.
Oh, did she?
Yeah,
Okay.
she moved out to Wachusett.
Okay.
Wachusett Regional
Ernie,
School
there-
for a little bit.
Before, when we talk about Worcester, it's one of those things. My body is feeling its age, but my mind is sharp. You know what I mean? I remember all of the people in my life that when I see them, it brings back all of those memories. Like I know I mentioned Alfonso Chavis, and I've seen him, and Brian Prince, who I haven't seen.
Brian Prince used to coach too.
Yeah, Brian Prince used to run a summer league for us in Plum League that you weren't around then.
I wasn't there.
But some of us will know. You have to talk to guys like Larry Hampton and Bo about that. And we used to play over at the old Elm Street Community School outside. But I had guys like Paul Miner, who was at United Way, who was one of the directors at the Boys Club, and I knew his wife Noreen.
And at one time, the Boys and Girls Club, we talked about Lincoln Square, but then Ionic Ave too. became.
Was he at Ionic?
Vince Del Monte was at Ionic.
Oh no! I only knew Paul from Lincoln.
Right?
Lincoln.
Then eventually, unfortunately, Lincoln closed. So everyone merged over.
They sold that building for $1. I heard.
Yeah.
I heard they sold it to Worcester Vogue initially for $1.
We're supposed to do something in there, and it just seems as though nothing
yeah, I think
happened.
is it WPI now or the pharmacy
or the developer of what it is right now.
Okay,
out of
it's good to
Boston.
see. It's good to see the Worcester Auditorium still there.
They're putting a lot of money into it right now.
Are they really? We used to go see the wrestling there.
Oh, yeah.
We used to sneak in the doors.
Rock
and
concerts used to be there. Everything used to
we used to go see wrestling there.
They're bringing back the little theater up there too as well, by the way.
Okay.
They're putting a lot of money into that establishment. They've been for a while as that. They're trying to figure out where does it fit in the fabric of the city of Worcester, because at one time it was prominent. It was the original Centrum, if you will. It was the original DCU.
Okay.
That was the entertainment at the time. But since they built the Centrum back then, which was DCU, because I worked at the Centrum, DCU, it just sat there for a little. It had some activity and it just sat. But right now they are renovating it. If people don't.
Well, I'll tell you something. Like you've said, and I hate to brag about it, but I've been around the world, Ernie. I've lived in 9 different countries, and now I'm in Sydney. And I love it there. And I say that Sydney is my home, but Worcester is my home. You know what I mean? I'm a Worcester kid. I value it. I just wish it could become what it really should be. And I think the powers that be are holding it back. And I'd like to see some more young blood put into Worcester. Like I said, my old player Louis Ojeda, when he was running for public office, I was like, I don't know. But then I said, who am I? Who am I to discourage him?
I work with him at the Ionic Boys Group too as well. He's the city councilor.
Yeah,
he covers the main.
Is he doing well?
He's doing really well.
Oh, great for him.
He's working really hard.
I had my questions.
Which is understandable, because sometimes when people move out of the hood and they move up, and they get involved with the establishment, and then sometimes you think that most people say, "Oh, we're going to come back and we're going to help," and sometimes they don't. But
I didn't question his ability to do it. I questioned how much effort he could put into it, because he was coaching. He's coaching at Union Park,
right?
You know,
he's still in school. He's still with public schools, by the way.
And people don't realize that coaching is a very, very, very involved thing,
and consumes a lot of time, especially in a family.
And it's management of personalities.
Right.
I mean, I did it for 8 years, and I'm doing it now on a professional level. Well, I don't coach though. I'm in the front office, so that I passed that point of going back to coaching.
Well, Kermit Sharpe, thank you for joining me here on Unity in the Community. It's always good to see you. I'm glad that you were able to be available to come and have this discussion with me, and I hope that the listeners out there had a chance to hear some really, really inner rich cultural history in reference to the families, in reference to the sport, and in reference to the neighborhoods and everything that goes on.
We've been friends a long time, Ernie. Anytime you need me, just call me.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Kermit Sharpe, ladies and gentlemen, Worcesterite. He's proud of. He's traveled all around the world. He's back here, and he's joining me on Unity in the Community. I'm Ernie Floyd, and thank you for joining us on Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Thank you.